Hello everyone, it's Jasmine and welcome back to my channel. Today's card is going to be a really fun mermaid card, and I've got a watercolor background and some Copic coloring on my images. So let's get started. I'm starting out using my Misty and two Greeting Farm images. These are the Marissa Mermaid. These are a little bit bigger than the set that they have of the Little Mermaids. And Mazia, I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. Anyway, starting out with Copic coloring, so we're going to do Memento ink because that is a Copic safe ink, and some Bristol cardstock. Whenever you're using markers to paper you're going to color in, you want to remember opposites attract. So a dye-based ink with an alcohol marker, or a waterproof ink with a water-based marker or paint. So I use Memento for all my Copic coloring, and I use Bristol cardstock, Bristol Smooth, for all my Copic coloring because it takes the ink well. It does the bleed outside the lines easily, and it's just really fun, easy, nice, smooth cardstock to work with. So I'm going to do like a tealy blue, mostly in the BG family, for the mermaid on the left, and then with the mermaid on the right I'm going to do more of a green, a true green, for her tail. So I'm starting off her tail, laying down a coat of B000. What you want to remember with Copics is that you can layer them. So if you start out with your darker color, which is a strategy a lot of people use, I'm not comfortable with that yet because I wasn't sure exactly how dark I wanted to go. So I start off with my lightest color typically, and then add shadows and layer them as I go. So when you use the darker colors, you are layering on top of the lighter ones, and then when you go back in to smooth out with the lighter ones, you're going to push that darker because it has more Copic colorless blender in it, so it will push the darker colors, which helps in the blending. So it's easy to see with these drawings where to add the darker shades, which is under her hair, up under her fin, our little skirt there, where the two bottom fins meet. And I think these images being bigger makes them easier to color. And I am going to fussy cut these out, so I'm not worried too much about going outside the lines, but I do try to keep it kind of careful. And the B colors and the BG colors are pretty close in terms of color family, so you can layer them pretty easily without too many problems blending. So the colors I use for Marissa's fin, which is the one on the left, what I'm coloring right now, is B000, and then BG01, BG10, BG05, BG13, and BG23. But I'll have all the colors listed in my description box in case you're wanting a comprehensive list. That'll be there. Another thing to remember too is that when your Copic dries, it will be a little bit later, because when it's wet it looks darker than when it's dry. So that's something to keep in mind. So moving on to skin tone, I kept both of their skin the same. I started with E50, but I did want them to look tan because obviously they're mermaids, they're in the sun. Seem a little color. And then E13 will be my darkest tone. And E31 is my mid-tone. So you want to put your darkest color where shadows will naturally fall. So under her chin, around her hairline, under her arm, on her belly. It's kind of straightforward with these images on where the shadows are going to be. So I added R20 for some cheek color. I did try some RV95 for a cheek color and it just looked like a bruise, so don't try that one. So for Maisie on the right, going into her fins, we're going to stick with YG as a base color, YG41, and then I will use G02, G16, and G17 as I build the tones in her fins. Initially G16 is the darkest color I use, but I did end up going in with the G17 to darken it up just a tad more. And then G02 ends up being my mid-tone. And I do make sure to leave highlights of the YG41 showing so that I have my highlights and I have my really super light spots. And then there's my G17 to go in and add in a little more dark where I need it, which is going to be kind of where it's tucked in underneath her butt and underneath that little skirt of fins under her arm, where her arm meets her knee. And then along those longer dark lines in the tail fins. So next we get to do the hair, which is kind of my favorite part. And I wanted to do some pretty, not so crazy for mermaid colored hair. So I'm going with some purple on Maisie, there on the right. So BV01. And hair can be kind of tricky. Some people are amazing at hair. I'm practicing, but I wouldn't consider myself a good hair colorer yet. But when you use the non-traditional colors, I think it's a little bit easier. You can get away with a little bit more. Let's use VO5 as my mid-tone. I didn't really have a set idea of what I wanted this to look like. This is a little bit of an experiment, I'll be honest. But I do like how it turned out. And then V17 was my darkest tone that I used, and then the BV01 to kind of blend everything out. Like I said, when you're using these non-traditional natural colors for hair, you can get away with a little bit more So BV01, if we get the camera to focus, V05 and V17 are the three I used for the purple hair. And then I just went into that little flower in her hair with YG41 and I think that's G02. So now we are back to Marissa, the one on the left. And she's going to have some really pretty bright pink hair. And with the RVs, which is the color family I used for this, there's a lot more range than the BVs or the Vs. So I'm starting in with RV00, the nice light pink base. And part of the reason I use the light to start out with is because you can build on it so much easier than going right in with a darker color or brighter color in the RV family. So RV09, I'm using that to, and it's in my darker tones. So behind her head, behind her shoulders, and then where the hair overlaps and at her part. But I am careful to leave that super light pink as highlights. And then RV06. I guess this would kind of be my second midtone. I end up using 5 pinks in her hair. And then RV02. Then I went back in with my E50 to make sure I kind of smoothed out any pink that I got on the skin. And I layered 2 colors for her top. And that was VO5 and BG05. Just to give it a little difference. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for the pearls in her hair, so I went in with a RV quadruple 0 because I wanted to give it kind of a pearly tone. In the end, it didn't matter because you really couldn't see it anyway, but I tried. I'm going to put some flat back pearls on top of it anyway, so. And so to add some sparkle to her fins, I'm using a Spectrum Noir sparkle pen. You can also use a Wink of Stella glitter pen. And then I just added streaks to her hair. In the green fin, my pen decided to start working a little better, and I got a lot more sparkle on the green and purple one. So next I'm going to work on the card base. I'm using 1/2 inch wide score tape and some Elizabeth Crafts Silk Microfine Glitter in Fire Opal. This is like a pink sandy color. It's really pretty. So when I do the score tape, I'm going to go around all of the edges. And I'm going to make sure that that butts up to the very edge of the cardstock. So I've got all that down. I'm going to trim it carefully. This is going to serve 2 purposes. We're going to stick down our watercolor base that I did with some Gansai Tambi watercolors. And we're going to coat the remaining exposed adhesive in the glitter. So kind of line that up, and then holding that down, I begin to remove the paper, remove the paper. So you want to make sure that that cardstock is sealed down to all the adhesive before you add the glitter. Otherwise, it will kind of interfere with the adhesion because the glitter will get underneath the cardstock. So add my glitter on top. I just take my finger and run it around the edges and kind of burnish that glitter in. And then brush off the excess and add the rest of the glitter back to the jar. So I've got a little piece of acetate from the packaging of the stamps just to give me a non-stick template, I guess you will, to see where I'm stamping so I don't stamp other than where I want it. And I'm masking off part of the sentiment because I only want the your in the sentiment, and it says I think your. So I mask off the I think portion of the stamp. Some people cut their stamps. I'm not comfortable doing that. I don't like to do that. So doing this on the acetate, you can get an idea of where it's going to stamp, how it's going to look, and where you need to manipulate your stamps to make it look more how you want it, more precise. Now with acetate, obviously it's non-porous, so you can just wipe off the ink and you're good to go. You're going to see my goof here in a second. So when you're masking off, I'm using Post-it tape here. And then adding your ink, you want to make sure you remove the mask before you stamp your paper. Otherwise you get smudges where you don't want them. But we can cover that up. So I've got some power tabs, and these are clear, sticky, thick adhesive tabs. So I've added a whole bunch of those to the back of each mermaid to give them a little bit of dimension. And then I've got sequins and little clear drops from Pretty Pink Posh. The sequins are from Little Things. I'm using Caribbean Dream and Pacific. And I start using a We Are Memory Keepers quick stick tool, but it was more trouble than it was worth. It didn't want to work. It didn't want to cooperate today. So I just went back to my tweezers. I did die cut that watercolor panel using an Avery L Wonky Stitches die as well. So I'm using some Ranger matte medium to stick down on my sequins and my clear droplets. I like this medium specifically because it's matte. So you won't see it through the sequins, you won't see it through the clear droplets, but they'll be attached firmly. They don't fall off. And it doesn't show clear, or not clear, shiny in places that it squeezes out or gets where you don't want it. So that's why I prefer that. So to finish up, I use some self-adhesive flatback pearls on her hair, and that's the finished card. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.